But first, another controversial California lesson plan in public schools. Some middle and high school students apparently being shown films produced by a gay media group in San Francisco, including this one about cross-dressing.
This portion of the news story is the presentation of the first phase of the Hegelian dialectic, defined as the thesis. By presenting this cross-dressing cartoon, Fox News and Bill O'Reilly are presenting the gay interest group's belief that children should be knowledgeable of those in our society that live an alternative lifestyle. And it is clear to see from these particular scenes of the cartoon that they want to convey the message that cross-dressing is fun and attractive.
Brilliant. Joining us now from Charleston, South Carolina, Fox News analyst Margaret Hoover. And here in the studio, Fox and Friends co-anchor Gretchen Carlson. You know, people who live in other parts of the country, and they're going, are you kidding me? We're not kidding you, ladies and gentlemen. California public schools, all right? Here's the point. Students sit there. Here it is. Now, I guess it's the tolerance thing again, right?
Oh, come on.
Well, that's why. That's how it's being marketed. Okay, but let's walk through it. It's being marketed by the California Public School authorities as teaching their students to be tolerant of all lifestyles, including this person wearing women's clothes. He's a guy.
Right.
That's what the intent is, correct?
At this juncture of the story, exercising his expertise with the dialectic, O'Reilly takes the time to reinforce the ideals or beliefs of the thesis that were already presented visually in the cross-dressing cartoon. And he does this by now verbally stating the beliefs and objectives of the gay rights interest group that animated this propaganda. Notice that when his studio guest attempted to jump right in and address the issue as she, quote-unquote, viewed it from her standpoint, Bill O'Reilly quickly stopped her and said, okay, let's walk through it.
That's how it's being marketed. Okay, but let's walk through it.
Then he proceeded to represent to us, the viewers, the message that was already visually displayed in the cartoon, as well as the motives that were behind the production of this propaganda. O'Reilly, being the expert of the diaprax that he is, wanted to make sure that the thesis was well stated and fixed in the minds of the viewers before phase 2, the presentation of the antithesis, began.
Well, the problem is, and first of all, nothing against gays, lesbians, or transgender people, but there's a time and a place for everything. And I do not believe the time and the place for a child to learn about this is elementary school,
middle school,
middle school. And number one, the time and the place should be for the parent to tell the child about these specific things if they so choose. Why is it always that the parent has to opt out of these particular programs at school? And by the way, in this California case, the parents didn't even know about these videos.
Yeah, they just dropped down the kids.
Can you imagine that? If I don't know how you'd feel about your kids seeing this at school without your knowledge, but I would be outraged.
Well, I'm not happy about this at all, Hoover, because, again, it's a social engineering project in the public schools. The parents don't know about it. I don't want cross-dressers to have a hard time in their lives. I certainly don't want any bullying of gay people, and I think it's a problem, and I think it has to be addressed by the school authorities. But you're basically social engineering. You're not teaching anymore. Am I wrong?
Now unleashed to do her dirty work, O'Reilly's in-studio guest commences to initiate phase 2 by presenting the antithesis, which, if you remember, the antithesis is a completely opposite view that is in opposition to the thesis. And to strengthen the opposing nature of these two viewpoints, or these two phases, Fox News rolls the video footage of the cross-dressing cartoon, which is the thesis, while O'Reilly's in-studio guest presents her views, which is the antithesis. By simultaneously presenting both of these phases, O'Reilly and Fox News seeks to engage the emotions of the viewer and to draw them into a staged conflict, thus psychologically putting the viewer in a mind state of frustration, which creates a need for the viewer to find some type of resolution. And to heat up the viewer's frustration, Bill O'Reilly states more than once that this cartoon is a tool of social engineering. In both cases, of the thesis and the antithesis, O'Reilly reinforces the beliefs of the opposing views for the purpose of producing a psychological conflict that will, in the end, produce the synthesis that he and his bosses at Fox desire to see.
Right. No, you're right. And also, sexuality studies has no place in an elementary, middle school, or high school curriculum. That's like an elective in college. This is not to be taught in our public schools.
But they have sex ed all day long in public schools now. They have sex ed all day.
Right. And you know what? And that's why, you know what, not all day long, but they need to be teaching kids the Gettysburg Address and the American presidents, and you know what, the California kids could take a lesson in finance or two, and maybe their state legislatures would learn how to balance their budget.
But let's deal with reality.
I mean, this is the problem.
Let's deal with reality. They have sex ed. It's in the schools. It has to be in the schools. We understand why, because you get a society that's fairly permissive, and children are becoming pregnant, and they're getting abortions, and they're having babies, and the school has an obligation in a health situation, all right, to say, look, here's what's going on, here's how you can prevent it, here's why you shouldn't do it. The Congress is going to pass more abstinence money that drives the left crazy, but that's happening.
Fox News analyst Hoover continues phase 2 of the dialectic by presenting the antithesis. However, as she, unlike Bill O'Reilly's in-studio guest, presents the antithesis, she does it in a far more passionate way and with far more conservative views. This is very important to note because this is all a part of creating the synthesis. Although O'Reilly's in-studio guest also stated that she was opposed to the presentation of this video, she also stated that she believed that parents should have knowledge of it and that the children were too young to be receiving this information. However, Hoover stated this type of information, as well as anything of a sexual nature, should not be taught at all in public schools. Rather, this type of information should be reserved for parents to educate their children on in their own personal homes. Hoover's standpoint is one that expresses the values of traditional Christianity. O'Reilly then jumps on Hoover and states that she is not being realistic. In other words, O'Reilly is saying that traditional Christian values are not realistic. This was all done to anchor in the mind of the Christian viewers that it is irrational to hold on to traditional Christian views in our present-day society, and that these views must be compromised to adapt with the evolving social issues. This is the Hegelian dialectic at its finest. And lastly, to punctuate the whole sick process, at the end of this news segment, listen to what O'Reilly said.
Hoover, you went to Stanford University, right?
No, I didn't. I went to Bryn Mawr College.
Oh, Bryn Mawr, and in Philadelphia. I thought you went to Stanford. Okay.
I did.
You went to Stanford. I'm sorry. I got the culture warriors mixed up.
Confuses the culture warriors.
By pointing out that his in-studio guest was a graduate from Stanford and that Hoover was not, O'Reilly was suggesting to you, the viewer, that intelligent people like his in-studio guest do not cling to such conservative, traditional Christian values like the ones that she presented. And here was the implementing of the synthesis